welcome back to Blue Ridge Homestead. We're going to plant some cold season brassicas today. That'll be your broccoli, kale, cauliflower, cabbage. Plant your carrots, some lettuce, spinach if you want to. Today we're going to plant some broccoli, some kale, and some flat Dutch cabbage. I laid a row off here. Probably be the first row of broccoli on that. Dirt is pretty wet, packed good around the plants. Has some good soil. It's got a lot of organic material in it to break down. A lot of worm food. Worm food equals worm poop, which is they call castings, worm castings. It's good stuff. Probably some of the best fertilizer you can get. So we'll get started and be right back with you. All right, so we got us some broccoli plants here. I don't know if y'all met Mrs. Blue Ridge Homestead. This is my wife Sally. So you're gonna pull your plant out of your pots. Roots on these are not too bad, so you don't want to really get too rough with them, but you want to disturb them just a little bit. That gets them to venture out and not kind of grow around in a circle, so to speak, like they have been in that little plastic container. The bottom leaves will be tiny. I normally pinch those off, plant them up to the first true leaf, which would be like this here, and this here. You can see the stem. So you're going to want to plant them up to that. When you plant them, set that in the ground. You're going to dig a little cubby in your row, like this. Then you're going to set it in there. So, like that. Bring your dirt back around them. Cover them and get up to those leaves that we were just talking about. Then you want to kind of give them a good push around the soil. That supposedly helps keeps the root maggots from getting on the stem, and then they'll crawl down that stem of that plant. And you'll notice your broccoli or your cabbage, either one, will start turning yellow. No matter how much water you give it, it's still going to die because those root maggots, or moths is what they become, white moths. They are eating the roots out from underneath of it. Now broccoli, cabbage, kale, stuff that stays green, loves water, it loves nitrogen. So you want to give it as much of that as it needs in order to grow. Find any small leaves on the bottom, break them off or not, it doesn't really matter. I normally plant these about 18 inches apart. Some recommend 2 feet. Just kind of depends on how much water and feed you give them, as to how far apart you plant them. But these plants are cold weather crop, so they'll tolerate even some frost on them. They'll bounce right back. The leaves may turn a little bit purple, like you can see this one here has a little purple tint. It's totally fine. It'll bounce back, get a little bud in the center. That will come out and be your broccoli. Now, as far as harvesting your broccoli, you want to get it when it's just right. You want it to have a good head on it, but you don't want it to have any yellow on it. Once it gets yellow, it's going to start opening up, and then it's going to bolt. When it bolts, it's going to throw a flower head up, and it's going to go bad quick. It's just going to produce seed. That's the whole reason they're here, is to produce seed, offspring, and reproduce. So you're basically eating a immature flower, so to speak, when that head forms on that broccoli. One way to prevent that, give it plenty of food, plenty of nitrogen, plenty of water. So if it's stressed in the slightest bit, initial head out of the center of your broccoli, you know, weeks from now, all the leaves that are down here on the sides are going to pop out little buds about yay big. Let them grow, because that'll be your secondary broccoli heads, and you can get 2, sometimes 3 crops off of one plant before it's just totally done. So we'll go ahead and start planting this, and we'll come back to you here shortly. Good. Alright, so I'm going to plant some cabbage now while my wife finishes about the broccoli. We ended up with 2.5 rows of broccoli, so that ought to do us for the year, hopefully. So this particular cabbage plant is called a flat Dutch. Similar to what you planted the broccoli at. Just seed it in the hole after you rough the roots just a little bit. Pack it down around the plant. Doesn't have to be super tight, just tight enough to help the plant stand up and to keep those cabbage moth maggots from getting down around the roots, because they will eat it up. A little pressing around the stem really seems to help keep them away. It won't totally eliminate it or eliminate them, but it will greatly reduce that. So this dirt is almost wringing wet. We've had a lot of rain here, and it just snowed a couple days ago. You just put your little marker in there. Sticks to mark the end of the rows. Sometimes we write on them, tell us what they are, in case those little things fly away. Some plants look similar until they actually take off. So I pinch those leaves off. If they're way down on the plant, I'll pinch them off so I can plant it up to where the stem is. You'll see the color of that stem is purple all the way up to where the leaves are. I'm going to stop right there. That's where the edge of the dirt's going to be. I'm going to fill it up to here, and then that'll give it a good solid foundation. Cabbage, these plants get pretty big, so you want to give them a good probably 2-foot distance apart, because they'll grow up so far and then their leaves will lay down. The leaves will lay down on the ground around them a lot of times. It's a really good weed preventer, kind of natural defense. We'll just put it in there, grab some of this soil, push around them, pull it in tight, press it down around them, and then just loosely fill the rest in. In between the plants. Not really no need to water these in. If it was a little bit drier, I would probably recommend watering them in. As soppy as this ground is, I don't think they'll have any trouble taking off. The top seems to be fairly dry, but underneath it's mud ball wet. So we'll finish up this cabbage row and start on the kale, and we'll get back with you. So now we're going to plant us a row of kale, about a whole flat of kale, and that's roughly 32 plants, which ought to provide a lot of greens for us. This is an excellent source of iron, protein. If you like greens, it's hard to beat the flavor of kale. These here we're going to plant probably just about that far apart. Give us a nice hedge through here of kale, and hopefully, you know, to harvest them, you just kind of pinch the leaf off or cut it off. And the stems, if you don't like the stems, don't eat them, but you can just eat it just like that if you like. It's really good. A lot of iron, vitamin C, the whole deal. It's going to get planted just similar to what we planted the other stuff. Dig a little hole out and tamp the dirt around it. Give it some solid foundation. That's really all there is to that. But you rough the roots up again on the bottom. See this one here, look at all those roots. Just want to, not really trying to get too rough on them. I like to break them up around the corners. That makes them grow another direction. So again, this is a nitrogen loving plant. It's going to need a lot of water and it's going to need a lot of nitrogen. So you can get nitrogen in a lot of different forms. Fish emulsion has a lot of nitrogen in it. Of course, they make fertilizers that have a lot of nitrogen in it too. If that's what you want to use, and fine, use it. Chicken manure, I guess you could use it. It's really hot and run a risk of burning your plants, and it will kill them. So if I was going to use it, I'd try to get some composted chicken manure. It's still going to have the nitrogen in it, but it's not going to be so hot. So rabbit manure is good. You can use it straight out of the cage, right on the garden. But probably fish emulsion is probably going to be the #1 organic fertilizer for that. So we're going to finish up planting this, and we'll be right back. Our row of kale planted right down here.